Hello, thanks for stopping by my channel to watch a video tutorial about weird paper crafts. Today's printable pack that we're going to put together is inspired by, well, the 90s in general. My beloved 90s, I miss you so much. But the idea kind of came from a conversation I was having with my husband about the old subscription service Columbia House. Actually, Columbia House might be still around in some way or another, I'm not sure. But we were talking about it and he made the comment that nobody ever actually, they went out of business because nobody ever actually paid their bill. They just took the free CDs and never paid. And I was like, who the bleep did I marry? I paid my bill. And we both were just staring at each other like we were aliens. Like, he couldn't believe someone would actually pay for the CDs, and I couldn't believe someone actually wouldn't. I had an epic collection of music thanks to Columbia House. So, you know, I'm curious now. I want you to let me know. Were you a Columbia House rogue? Or did you pay your bill like a decent human being? Tell me in the comments. I won't judge. But anyway, if you don't know what Columbia House was, basically it's a subscription service, and at the time that I was in it, you joined it by ordering 14 free, well, 1 penny. For 1 penny, you got 14 CDs or cassettes, and then you were in the club and you had to agree to buy a certain amount at the regular club price, plus they always constantly had other discounted music that you could buy. Like I said, I got an epic collection of music through Columbia House. So this little set that we're gonna put together is inspired by the essential music needs of the 90s. The 90s was a really cool music era, so it was really hard to actually pick which albums to include in this. And and the cool thing about the 90s, there was a bunch of different genres were all like equally popular in the 90s, like just huge, just so much cool music came out of the 90s. So it was hard to pick. I did not include any country music because at that time, when I was at that age, our moms listened to country music and it was lame. We did not listen to it. So since this is a Gen X representative, we did not listen to country music. I love country music now, so, you know. But, you know, when you're a teenager, you're just really too cool for anything that you don't like. So, thanks for watching. Let's get started. When I create one of these printable packs on Procreate, I always try to design it in a way that's going to make cutting and assembling as easy as possible. Because when you're working with tiny things, it can be a little bit hard. So most of this is somewhat straightforward, but there are a few parts of it I want to show you exactly how to assemble it. Now, the first thing that might be a little confusing on here is, for instance, these little accessories. There's 2 of them. And the reason that I do that is I like to make them reversible. So I like them to have something printed on both sides. But at the same time, I want everything to be on one sheet of paper to print easily. So it would take twice as long to have to cut out every one of those little tiny pieces and then glue them together. So what I do is I design it in a way so that you just cut out both squares, cut around the dotted lines, and then you're gonna glue them back to back. And then you only have to do the detailed cutting once. Well, let me go ahead and show you what I mean. So now I have cut around the rectangles of each of these pieces, and I'm gonna use a glue stick for this. Now, I'm going to coat this pretty well in glue, because I'm going to cut those pieces out once they're glued together. And in order to, think of it kind of like a puzzle or a game. In order for them to cut correctly, you've got to really fit them together flush. They need to be exact. So you're just going to kind of piece them together. And then from there, you now can cut out the little pieces, and you only have to do it once. Let me just quickly show you how these come out. So there's the little adapter, cassette adapter thing, and as you can see, it's reversible. You might be a better cutter than me. I'm not that great of a cutter, honestly, so you can still see kind of a white border around mine. Using an X-Acto knife might actually be better for tiny pieces. I don't really like X-Acto knives. I am not very trustworthy with those things. I once accidentally sliced open an artery with one while at work, so I kind of avoid them if I don't have to use them, or even smaller scissors. But with me, I don't really care about little white borders sometimes, so that part doesn't bother me. So that worked pretty well. Very cool, very cool. The next thing we'll talk about is the Columbia House catalog. Columbia House, of course, was that club that I told you about. And their catalog was just like the Bible to me. I loved the Columbia House catalog. So this is just going to be, it's got a couple pieces. Back in the old days when we had catalogs, you could use, you didn't have the internet, so you could use like an order form, or in this case, in Columbia's house case, they also had like postcards that you could send back. So I created, these will be kind of like loose inserts that will just stick inside the catalog. And then it'll have pages just like any dollhouse book. So the first step, of course, will be to cut out the cover. And I'm using cardstock. So my catalog itself is probably going to be a little bit more sturdy than a real life catalog would be. A real life catalog usually has really thin, chintzy pages, so that'd be kind of cool. But anyway, the catalog would just detail all the tons and tons and tons and tons of tapes or CDs that you could buy. And you just go in there and pick the ones you want and fill out your order form and mail it back in. I can't even imagine doing all that now. That things are so much easier than they used to be with the internet. Okay, so now this is a strip of pages, and I'm just going to accordion fold them. And it might be a little bit hard to see on camera, but each of them has kind of a line in between the pages, so that kind of helps me where to fold. But I'm going to start by folding the first page back along the line, and then I'm just gonna keep going like that, making all the pages a uniform size. It's gonna fit into my book like this. So this is gonna be the outside edge of my pages. So I want those to be pretty strictly uniform. If it's crooked on the back side, that's okay, because that part I can trim later. But I am really working to make sure that my page edges are pretty uniform. Now, here's the pages. They're folded so that they can actually turn. And now I'll take my cover, and the way I do it, the way I fit the books together is I'll kind of just curve the cover around them. And again, trying to get it uniform. Now, my cover, because I used the cardstock pages, that makes my pages kind of thick. So the cover is a little too small for the edges, and that normally happens with the books that I make. That's pretty standard, because I know that I'm going to end up trimming them up in the end, so I make them a little bit big so that after I trim them, they won't be too small. So don't cut the outer edge. Don't cut the edge that's going to be the edge of your book. Cut the side that's going to be glued into the spine of your book. And I just kind of trim it up. If you want, mine are really pretty good. It depends. Sometimes when I make books, I must not fold very well and it'll make the edges kind of wonky too. And except for the outside edge, you can always trim the bottom and the top as well if you want to. Okay, I use hot glue to glue these into the spine. So I'm going to think of how I'm gonna put this on. It'll fit into my spine this way. So that means I need hot glue on the edge of the spine. Be really careful because once you trim it, it's not gonna stay together anymore if you drop the pieces. And then you just kind of fold your cover around there and glue it in. And then if you need to trim anything on the cover or anything else, go right ahead. So there's our little Columbia House uniform catalog. And now I'm just gonna make the little order form for it. And catalogs are still kind of a thing, I guess. I get one once in a great while, but so you might be familiar with this, but how they have a little order form in them. And a lot of times it'll just be kind of folded up. And sometimes they'll be attached inside and sometimes they'll just be sticking inside and like they'll fall out. So there's like an order form and like a little postcard, the essential Columbia House postcard. Let us know if you don't want this month's selection or we're gonna send it. So yeah, there's our little Columbia House catalog. Another thing that's on here, let's look at this Discman. Discman is really pretty straightforward. It's just gonna be, this is gonna be the outside and this is gonna be the inside. It'll fold and this is basically like a portable CD player. Some people watching this might not even know what a CD is at this point. This is really dating me, but that's fine. I loved this era of time. So we'll cut out the two pieces. Okay, so here's my top part. This is like what you would see on the exterior of the device. And then this is gonna be like the inside. So I'm gonna turn this one over. And I'm just gonna glue them back to back. If you have any like white edge showing, if you want to, depending on how picky you are about that. Myself, I'm not that picky about it. I don't really care, but you might be. You might be. If you're making a hyper realistic scene, you might really want to pay attention to little details like this, for sure. It can kind of like make it unrealistic if you want it to be really realistic. And then a Discman, just, it opened and closed and you would plug your headphones into it, put your CD in there and play your music and walk around the neighborhood and get some exercise. So that's it for the Discman, very cute. Now, the CDs, I won't show you those. Those are pretty easy how to do. You just cut out your CD case and you're gonna fold it. I would just take a little line of hot glue along the edges, not along the outer edge, because it's gonna create a sleeve and then you can just slip the CDs down into it. Just remember, if you're using, I like to use hot glue a lot. I feel that projects go a lot faster with it because it dries so quickly. But just remember, if you're a kiddo doing these projects, make sure that you get help from a grown-up to use a hot glue gun. But the cassette tapes, let me show you how to assemble these and hopefully they work. The first step is going to be, we're gonna do this Nirvana Nevermind album. So the first step is gonna be to cut out the pieces. Now when you're what this is gonna be is the cassette case. All the tapes back then came in a case. And it's got these little itty bitty teeny tiny tabs. So you gotta make sure you cut in there so that we can assemble this thing. And so let's talk about assembling this. Okay, so we're gonna turn this into a case. So we're basically just gonna fold along all the lines. Now this is another spot where an X-Acto knife might help you if you like to score paper. I'm using cardstock, so it probably would be better if I took a little X-Acto knife and just dragged it lightly along all these little dotted folding lines, just because it would make it fold easier and straighter, but I'm not really having any problems with it anyway. So that was my coffee maker shutting off. Oh, Shad, the coffee's done. So anyway, I'm carefully folding these pieces. I will also want to fold the tabs because that's eventually what I'm gonna use to assemble this thing. And basically how it works, we are going to want the top little part to open. So that's not gonna glue to anything. We're just gonna glue the little bottom tabs and create kind of a little box. And like I said, this is so teeny. It's appropriate for 1/12 scale. You could probably use it for the 1/6 Barbie scale too. I think that's Barbie scale. But anyway, again, gotta be really careful with your glue gun. I just am gonna dab on a little dabs on these two tabs. And I'm gonna carefully just kind of mush them together with the sides. Okay, it's working so far. You gotta be careful with that hot glue. It can burn your fingers. I find really tiny amounts like this normally are okay. I'm not burning it all right now, but you just gotta hold on to it for a second while it hardens. And then you're going to repeat that with the tabs for the back part of the case. Oh, just a little glue on the tab. Oh yeah, this is so cute so far. I'm so excited that it's working. Okay, that hot glue hurt a little bit. Now, again, hot glue is my preference. I just like how quick it makes things, but something else might work, you know, Elmer's glue or whatever type of adhesive you prefer will work fine. You just, of course, have to wait longer because you kind of gotta just hold these tiny pieces together. They're not gonna stay together on their own while the glue is drying because they're so small. They'll pull apart, so you just have to hold on to them. Okay, so that's our case so far. We got glue. Okay, now I made little cassette tapes. And those are pretty simple, reversible. I'm going to just glue those back to back. And then you might wonder, if you're not old enough to have used cassettes, you might wonder what are these little rectangle pieces. This was the coolest part of cassettes for me. I loved these. But they had these little inserts that you could pull out. And usually they would have like all kinds of info about the band. Sometimes a lot of times it would have the lyrics to the songs on them. So you could sing along and take out your insert and read all the lyrics and sing along. And also a lot of times it would have cool artwork. And the way that these were made, they had a little tab on the back. And then they just folded up like a pamphlet basically. And it's working, it's so cute. And then your tape would kind of just snuggle up inside the insert, and then it would just go inside the tape deck. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. That cracks me up. So it's, you know, pretty realistic. You got your little teeny tiny tape cassette case, and you've got your removable insert where you can check out the lyrics to the songs, and then you've got your little cassette tape. So that'll be the same for all of the cassettes. Very cute. Now, the other item is the boombox. It's very easy to assemble. It's much the same principles we used for the cassette tape, but let me show you just a couple things about assembling it. I've got my piece all cut out here. Now, the first thing I want to show you is what this black thing up here is going to be is the handle. Boom boxes were like little radios and cassette players that you could carry around with you. It was kind of like maybe a little bit bigger than like a lunchbox. So we actually want this little white space cut out. I mean, you don't have to if you don't, like I said, if you're not picky about the white spaces, then don't worry about it. So this was one of those times when an X-Acto knife would be awesome, but I would simplify my life a lot if I used one, but I don't like them. So what I'll show you a little trick for cutting out a teeny white space like this. Basically, I'm just gonna fold it and I'm just gonna make a little slit, and that gives me my opening to get in there and just trim out that white space a little bit. So I've got my little handle spots trimmed off, and you probably can't see this on film, but there are very light dashed lines on the fold lines. I make them light just so that once the product is assembled, you really won't see them, but they are there for reference. But you'll need to kind of fold all the little fold lines. And again, you could score this with an X-Acto knife if you wanted to make the folds a more crisp and perfect. And then I am now going to go through with my tabs, fold them. And these will be basically just like what we did with the cassette tapes to make this thing all come together. And then basically how it's gonna work, once we glue together the sides and the bottom and things, then the back handle is gonna come together with the front handle. And that's what's gonna form the handle for carrying it. So I'm gonna start with, basically I'm going to get it prepared here so that it'll go together easily. I'm gonna glue the bottom tabs, the tabs that'll attach the bottom of the boombox, and the sides. And then I'm gonna just carefully fold it into place. And again, be careful not to touch the hot glue. If you're really experienced with hot glue projects, you're probably kind of used to it. But it can catch you by surprise too. And I'm just kind of gently curving and folding things into shape. And again, I'm just trying to get it together right now, so it doesn't have to be perfect, because I'll go back around the edges and glue, hot glue. I actually have extra tabs on here that I don't need, and I'm gonna cut those off. I want to keep these tabs. I don't want these. And then it's gonna make it really simple to pretty much shut the top like it's a lid, basically. And I'm just going to put my little glue dabs on and just, again, fold and curve it together. Kind of just gotta hold it for a minute while stuff bonds. You gotta hold it together while we bond. And then you can maybe put a little thin bead of glue along that. I'm going to press these together with my scissors because that will hurt to touch that. Accidentally got a little scrap in there because I'm a messy crafter. And voila! Once you've got it, like the actual assembly part can be a little messy with the glue, so once it's dried, that's another thing I like about hot glue. You can just pull off any little bits. And then if you want to now go back through, make this a little more stable, that's when I go back around the edges and I use my hot glue, but I kind of make it neater, kind of shape it with scissors. I got this one a little crooked when I actually, I think I'm gonna try and fix that. I didn't quite glue it on perfectly like I would like. So I'm going to now go back in there, pushing it down with my scissors. That's another really, my dog. That's another really cool thing about hot glue, that it's kind of forgiving, even with paper. If you get something, you know, crooked or something, you can normally gently tear it apart and do it over. So, oh, missed a little spot here to kind of close up the top. And there you have it. Pretty cool little boombox to play your cassettes in. The only thing I didn't cut out was the little iron-on patch set. I am doing a lot of cutting today and I didn't feel like cutting those out. Those are self-explanatory, but this is the silliest Gen X Essentials pack. We have Tupac here, of course. The scandal of the 90s. Is Tupac dead? No. Yes. I don't know. What's your thoughts? Our Columbia House catalog and our little Discman, our CDs printed on both sides. So cute. And they go in the Discman. You can rock out to your Pantera or whatever you want. And I think my favorite part of this set is the little teeny tiny pencil. Why is there a pencil in this set? Comment down below if you know why. Well, I hope that you enjoyed putting together your Gen X Essentials pack. If you had any problems or have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments down below. Maybe I'll make an extension pack of more albums. Maybe comment what is the 90s essential album that I should add. And yes, I will add in country if you want me to. I'm not too good for country anymore. So thank you so much for being here. If you liked the video, I hope that you'll subscribe and stick around. And I will be back soon with some more weird paper stuff. Bye!